now we are gonna go switch gear. I'm gonna need Joanna and Elizabeth Winterbottom to come out. We thought we could put a little bit together of a local panel for you. The three of us work for 3 different brokerages, so we all are really good friends, and we still stay in business together. So come on up. You can sit right there. Don't sit so far away. I don't bite.
Let's start the light. Okay.
All right. All right. So we're gonna talk about how we we all do a lot of business in the area, and we're gonna talk about secrets of getting more listing, right? So
Secrets.
remember, everyone's from different parts of the states or country, so they can take whatever nuggets they want to use it for. So what do you do to prepare yourself before you go to a listing appointment to make sure that you provide value to the seller before you meet them?
You want to start?
Sure. I think to try to be as informed as you can be. I definitely liked, if I have not been in that person's home, generally over 80% of my business with my partner Jodi and my team is referral based. So more than likely I've been in their home. So I would like to think that I know everything I need to know before I walk in there, but then again, they do refer me to people who I've not been in their homes. So try to do as much research as I can to make sure that I know what it might look like inside. I try to figure out what's going on in the immediate neighborhood, what's going on in the town, kind of do the tier analysis of the price points, and just kind of know that when they say, hey, my neighbor down the street just did this, and this is what happened, that I don't look like a jerk off and I don't know what's going on. I also try to prepare myself with the knowledge of what buyers are really out there. So generally speaking, most of us will make phone calls to our colleagues on a regular basis and see each other either at networking events or luncheons that we host or just community service events. And we talk real estate, we talk shop, and we talk about what buyers are in the marketplace right now, whose deals have fallen apart. Like, I need to know, it's not gossip, it's just information. And if you're going to empower yourself with knowledge is power, you have to walk in that room with a hell of a lot of power to get that listing and to make sure that you're confident.
100%. I feel like who started this session saying exactly what she said. Also, I kind of feel like if we've gotten a call for a listing, then, I already feel like I already know, if it's not a client that we've sold to, then I'm usually up against, 2 or 3 other people. I can kind of try and figure out who, the other agents that they've called, and really just figure out like, okay, what's my differentiating situation? Every agent that they're calling is probably going to be an amazing one. There's no question that any of us could do the job well in most of the time. So then it's really just trying to figure out what's your, unique value package that we all talked about. And then, kind of just also making sure that we don't decide, okay, this is a friend of mine, they're definitely going to use me, so I don't have to do my full thing. I have been burned by that before, where I say oh, great, Simon, okay, blah, blah, working together, blah, blah. And then you get the call and they go, well, I called Jodi and Joanna and they did their whole presentation for us and you didn't. So, really making sure that no matter who it is, no matter what it is, we really go over every single little thing that we're gonna do. And to, our EQ person said, ask them questions, say how can we help you? How can we, make this process as smooth and stress-free as it possibly can, because it is a stressful situation and our job is to make it, less so.
Yeah, definitely. And what I do is that, as you say, ask questions, right? I ask a lot of questions in advance before I even go into the appointment. So I know as much as I know about the house. Yes, they may be someone that we know, or maybe someone that we don't know, or it could be someone from referral, right? But the more questions you ask, the more you're knowledgeable before going to the house. Your goal is to be able to go to that one appointment, that one time, and able to have them sign with you at the same time, right? So you don't have all the information. And I truly believe that you have to listen more. We as realtor need to stop talking a lot of time, right? We talk a lot, right? So, and I think that we need to make sure that when you go to an appointment, I truly believe that 75% of the time, it should be the client talking. 25% of the time is still for you to talk. You're there to listen. Now, but again, prior to that, you already have a lot of information. You should have all this information. And the other thing I do is that I do send a email just making sure that, hey, you know what, thank you for the opportunities and just talk a little bit about us and give a link on here, there, and stuff. Because again, the reason they call you in, they already know who you are. So when you're at the appointment, you don't need to sell your team, you don't need to sell yourself, because there's a reason they call you in. Because you already have a reputation, you already be doing business, so concentrate on them. It's all about the client, right? Does that make sense? Right?
Well, I think that's exactly what one of our earlier speakers said. She lost the listing because she didn't ask the questions, and that was a brilliant statement. You can go in and talk about yourself, and you're number one, and you're number one, you're number one, but not everyone in this room could be number one. There's 5,000 ways to quantify that. So it's kind of BS. So if you don't go in there and find out what makes them number one, what makes them tick, you're going to lose the listing. You may not have that chance the next go around to get the expired.
And I really like what Simon said, because what the prospective seller is trying to gauge you versus the other 2 or 3 people that they're meeting with. So you're setting that, image of who you are and who your team is even before you meet with them. So by sending them the pre-email, we sell them our seller's guide, following up, just making sure that we send them, a text in the morning, confirming our appointment later today, blah, 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 as soon as after the meeting. Thank you so much for the meeting today. And you kind of reiterate some of the things you heard in the meeting so they know that they were heard. So that, it's the consistent package so that they know when they do hire you, hopefully, that, you are gonna do all the steps you say you're gonna do. So from start to finish, you're giving a image of, we're organized, we're on top of this, we're gonna do what we say, and that's why you should hire us.
And then we kind of touched on this a little bit already, is that you mentioned a couple of times that we have to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the pack, right? In our world, even though there's over 20,000 agents in multiple listing, there's only a few of us that really do the pack of the business, right? Mm-hmm. How do you guys differentiate yourself from rest of the pack? Just give me 1 or 2 tidbits. Well, I know something you do a little different.
Oh, I want to hear it.
No, you do first. No repeat, yeah.
Jodi and I have been doing this for 25 years. I think that alone speaks volumes of what differentiates ourselves. People do business for 25 years, but they don't do the amount of business that we do. We're a very small but mighty team. We might have a couple of part-time agents that, are kind of friends and clients who just want to dabble in the business, but the majority of the business gets done by the 2 of us, and I think that's what we try to impart on our prospective clients, is that they really do get us. There are a few other key agents on the team. We don't like to be a huge team for a reason. We want the client to make sure they have our undivided attention. And it's not like we're trying to micromanage, but at the same time, those of us who are of a certain age and our kids are we're empty nesters, our kids are older, we have a lot more time to devote to our clients, to ourselves, and to, gaining more knowledge to give back to our clients. So I think differentiating yourself by the amount of experience you have is really important, and you should stand on your own shoulders sometimes to say, this is what I can offer you, because I've lived in the real estate world for this long, and I've gone through many different iterations of this type of market or different markets, and this is how I can help. And it allows you to navigate these crazy circumstances. We're always learning with new deals, right? We're always learning. So the more learning I've already gained, I can give to my clients and give that back. I think this is kind of a fun fact, but we've run the same TV show. Not many agents in this room can say that. HGTV picked up our series for 2 seasons in a row, and Jodi and I were going to have our own show. Unfortunately, our former broker put the kibosh on that. But you can't say, hey, I was going to have my own HGTV show, even if it was 25 gazillion years ago, Jodi.
That's been so long ago when we did that show.
It was a long time ago.
It makes us feel old. Yeah, we were the first one, right? It was amazing. Yeah.
We were.
Elizabeth.
Yeah. I was just say one of the things that I think our market does really well is that we all work at different firms, so we all do work together. That we talk about what's going on in the market, what buyers are out there, and even when we're competing against each other, when somebody says like, "Oh, sorry, we're not hiring you. We're going with Jodi, Joanna, or Simon, or Debbie, or whoever." Like we usually are like, "Okay, that's great. They're going to do an amazing job for you." And we really have each other's back even when we're competing. And I think that spirit really helps. And it also helps you when, you go for the next one. You're like, you know what, there was a reason probably why I didn't get it. Like their kids are the same school or blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter. It's just like we all are one big real estate team, all trying to help our sellers do best, because when we all do well, like, the boats all rise to the highest tide and whatever. So I think it's really nice that Simon's put this together, and really that we can all share our knowledge.
And also, I think that we, the three of us, is very distinct brand also. Each one of us is like, hey, this is Jodi and Joanna. This is Elizabeth Winterbottom. This is Simon Westfall-Kwong. So I think you really need to know your brand. Like to make sure, because you need to believe in it, because when you go to your listing appointment, you need to be confident enough to say, okay, I'm gonna get this listing. And it's just Elizabeth say that if you don't get it, make sure you learn from it, because you'll win some, you'll lose some. Do we wanna get all the listing? Absolutely, 100%. But there's a chance that they might, someone may say something a little differently, or they may present something a little differently, and you just have to say, oh, you know what, I need to make sure I say something differently, or show them what I can really do, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier, right? So you don't do shortcuts, and you want to make sure you do the whole presentation and stuff. So do you, when you go to an appointment, do you actually have a listing presentation, or do you just kind of talk through the process?
So when we do a listing presentation, usually they say, do you want to talk right away, or do you want to, get a tour of the house? So we usually do the tour of the house first, and then we sit down, and no matter who they are, if it's my best friend or it's someone I've never met before, I do have a listing presentation. We've usually sent them the seller's guide ahead of time, so we can go through it. It's not long. It's maybe 10 slides. Talks about what our expertise is, what's going on in the market right now. We show them some examples of our social media, we show them some of the videos, and then we kind of talk about, okay, here are your next steps. After you hire us, here's what we're gonna do. So you're kind of assumptive closing with that, and then see how they react and say like, okay, now what are your questions and how can we help you achieve your goals?
For us, I think it's completely bespoke. I can't say that I'm going to walk into every single listing with a presentation or slides. There was a day when we first started 25 years ago, we'd show up with a book, and the book had many pages, and I loved to flip through those pages, and Jodi would be falling asleep dying. And some of our clients would be like dying next to her, and she'd be like, all right, enough with the book, and she'd close it. And you have to know how to go with it. You don't know, again, sometimes you know exactly who you're presenting to, sometimes you don't. You'd better not be tone deaf, because if that extra third slide is making your client fall asleep or check their phone excessively, you should stop. So I think we very much, we go with the flow, we have things prepared, we'll use them if we need them. We have our, I have my handy dandy briefcase that has too many things in it. I'll pull out things that I need, and Jodi will shut me down or introduce other ideas. So I think the beauty of having a partnership like ours is that you have two very different people working in a bespoke way for you, and that to us is invaluable because you get both of us. And you get two different styles, and that person might start out loving one style and then go into the other. We offer all of that, and it can change on a dime. So you show up as prepared as you can be and go with the flow.
Yeah, definitely, because you're not always like you have to be able to mirror image the person, right? And also a lot of time characteristic have to match. Like you may just go into the appointment and say, oh, this may not be a good match, in the sense, like, do you really want to take a listing? Because sometimes when you take a listing, eventually it could go totally the other way, right?
One of the things I think I did in the last year that was the most eye-opening thing is that my boyfriend was selling his house in Boston, and I helped him, interview the realtors. And I can't agree with, Jodi enough. Joanna enough. It was like the people that went through the presentation, I was like, okay, enough. I know I didn't let on that I was a real estate agent myself. And it was so funny how you could really catch on people's energy, catch on like what mattered and what people were saying and what was total bullshit and what was like they really cared about who you were. So I try and channel that a little bit because you kind of realize like we do this all the time and it's really easy to just fall into like what we would do. But if you're realizing you're losing your audience, then oh my gosh, like time to pivot quickly,
But I think the bottom line is they've called you in for a reason. You're the professional they want to see. Even if they're sometimes just calling to see if their best friend should get the job or you should, you might be used as really just used to see if that person wants to hire their best friend. But at the same time, they're calling you because they trust you already. So you're walking in the door with an endorsement from the person who just called you in. And you'd better be damn sure that they have done their research. These are not morons who are calling you in. They've called you because they want to see what you have to say. And they've done the research, and the internet is very, very good at showing you what you've done. So they know what house you've sold. They know how you've marketed it. They've seen your videos. Sometimes just sit there and show them the 15 videos that you've shown. And quite frankly, most of us use the same marketing company. So Elizabeth's marketing company is my company, is probably Arlene Ganella's marketing company. So honestly, you can't even differentiate yourself sometimes on that. So you have to act in a very bespoke fashion with each of your clients. They need different things, they need different technologies, and if you can't leverage that, and the nice thing about my boutique team is that we have people who work behind the scenes on our team that do not work with any other realtors in the area, so we can offer that to people.
So let's talk about, when we go to the listing appointment, there's always objections, right? So what is the main, currently right now in this marketplace, what is your main objection? Each one of you guys to be different. So give me an objection, and then tell me how you kind of handle it.
Well, I'm not sure what you're saying as far as objections, like what sellers would say.
Seller objections,
Seller
yeah.
objections.
Seller objections, yep.
Payment.
That's a big one, right?
Very big one. It always has been, but this is not new. This is not new. It's 25 years in the making. Sellers don't want to pay everybody. There's very few sellers who are like, oh, let me pay you a 6% commission. You split it however you want. They're like, what's the least that I could pay? 50% of the time. I mean, if we're honest with each other, 50% of the time, doesn't everybody say, what's the least I could pay? And if they're a friend of yours, they're like, really, what's the least you can do? So you have to provide logical information and a reason why they want to hire the expert that is you, and a reason why you want to attract the right kind of buyer agents in your field to keep a deal together. I'd say the longer you're in this business, the more deals you have fall apart if you've chosen the wrong transaction. Sometimes you really can't help it. You work with the best agent out there and somebody loses their job and something terrible happens and you can't safeguard your client from everything. But if you don't show up prepared to handle that initial objection, then you're not qualified to sell their house.
Yeah.
I agree. Sometimes people will be like, okay, that's, what else, what other questions do you have? And if they haven't mentioned commission, that's the time where I say, well, the one thing we haven't talked about is commission. And we have to really go over it. And, especially with the new laws, we actually have to really talk about, do you know what the new laws are? How does that affect you? And really make sure that I don't leave that meeting without saying two things, like, if you hire us, here's what it is. And the most important thing I think I always say before I leave is, if it isn't obvious enough, I really want your business. And I have to say it, and I make sure that they know it and say, you know what, it goes without saying, we've shown up here, we've done this whole presentation, but I would really be honored to work with you, and I think we would do the best job for you. So.
Well, I think some of the other objections, you might get from somebody is to say, well, somebody who came to my house prior and I'd like to reserve the right to sell it to them. So I think dealing with that objection, it may not happen on every transaction, but you have to figure out, okay, how do I get around this? And especially now, the conversation is going to happen more often because if they've met that person, they really don't want to pay that person for you to represent that person. So more than likely, that one person or two people or three people that they have in mind are not going to buy it anyway. So you have to figure out how you negotiate on that without fighting the battle that you're going to lose if you really go to bat. So you have to figure out, okay, is it worth just saying these people, let it be your objection, you keep them, pay me whatever if you sell it to them or not. They're not likely going to buy it.
The other objection we get, I feel like, in the last couple of years is, hey, the real estate market's so hot that, I don't really want to list my house. Don't you just have a buyer that wants to buy it and I don't have to stage it or fix it up or do anything? And really trying to get those people to understand that, you know what, yes, we can do an exclusive, but even if we do, you're still going to have to fix up your house. And you're still going to get the most money if we can expose it to the most amount of people. So I feel like that has been, a really hard objection in the last few years of just like, hey, listen, I don't want to do anything, and I should still get, 10 times more than my neighbor got last week. So.
And we'll see what happens going forward, right? Absolutely. So you guys, to wrap this up, being local expert, being that you guys have a lot of achievement in this area, what can you give one advice to the audience about concentrating on listing? What do they need to do to make sure they remember to do?
Well, you have to be omnipresent. If you're not out in your community, giving back to the community that is giving you your income and the ability for you to have a career, then you shouldn't be doing it. In my opinion, if you're not out in your local areas doing good and paying it forward, then I don't think you should be working.
I'm not sure exactly what I would say other than just have fun with it. I mean, we do our job because, it's our career and whatever, but I think we also do it at the bottom line because we do want to help people. We know that we have knowledge and expertise that can help shepherd these people through a stressful transaction. And we can make it both easier for them, but also fun. I mean, at one point in time, I think one of my careers, my little taglines was like, we make real estate fun. And Sue Lamka laughed. It was like, okay, Elizabeth, really? But it's a little bit of just like, we do want to help each other. Like, we are involved in the communities, and we really do want to help each and every one of our buyers and sellers either buy the house of their dreams or get through this selling process in, the quickest, most profitable time. So if we can just make sure that they know, hey, we're on your team, we're on your side. We are not like, yes, we may talk about commission, all that stuff, but after that, like, please come to us with your problems. We're going to solve that for you. So you can do whatever you want to do with your job or your kids or your family, because this is our job to take all of that weight off your shoulders. And we can have fun with it. It's fun to buy houses and sell houses. So keeping that spirit alive, I think, really helps in the whole thing.
Well, I think it helps not to take yourself so seriously, which that alone makes it a fun experience, because I think if, you don't set out by start being funny or fun, you just are or you aren't. And you hope that if you're in this business, you are, and you have to give that journey to your clients, make them comfortable, and by making them comfortable, make it a little bit more relaxed. Don't take yourself so seriously.
So my thing is that I think a couple of things. One is that your relationship with your sellers and buyers is important, but also relationship with everyone here is extremely important. Just like you said that when you have exclusive listing, we text each other and be like, hey, you know what, I have a listing coming up, do you have any buyers? And really helps us to provide the seller that comfort that we can have that relationship, right? That's something that you really want to do. The other thing is that my biggest thing is that you don't ever overpromise, because you don't want to do that. Because once you do that, that's like going downhill. So you want to definitely, don't overpromise. All right. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks, Joanna.